Morning, Mike. It's Andy from Birmingham. Hope you're well on this rainy day. Yeah, you're 100% right, mate. Going back to the bin strikes in Birmingham, you're 100% right. So if you drive around a lot of the suburbs of Birmingham, sort of quite tidy. People have probably took their rubbish down the tip like you would do during the strike. But the suburbs, as I can call them, they basically have thrown everything out into the road because they think that there's going to be like somebody like the army or paid contractors in, so they just throw everything out ready, like the dishwater and everything, thinking it's all going to be cleaned up. On another note to that, why can't the government? It's a health hazard, it's a public health hazard. Why can't they just get paid contractors now to get in there and clean it up? There's loads of like independent waste contractors, and just do a sweep and clean it all up. Anyway, great show, mate. Bye.
Andy, that's a very good set of questions, and I'm going to put them all to Councillor Meirion Jenkins because hopefully we can get those answers that you need. Councillor, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I mean, straightforward questions there from Andy, who's a resident of Birmingham. Why can't the council just organise for somebody other than the people who are on strike to go around and start collecting this rubbish and putting it in the back of a lorry and taking it somewhere?
Yeah, it's a good question, and your caller, I think his name was Ricky, raised a similar point.
Yeah.
You have to remember that there are laws which derived from the EU, but which unfortunately our government never replaced, which means that you can't simply employ people to replace strikers. The council can use existing agency workers who were in place before the strike began, and the council is using crews from other councils, like, for example, Conservative Lichfield is providing crews, but they are collecting rubbish that's on the streets. They are not replacing the work that was being done by the striking bin men. So it's one of the things that generally needs to take place in the UK is that we need to overhaul our employment legislation, which allows this type of situation to arise and which prevents us doing the sort of things that Ricky, and I think it was Andy, suggested might be done.
Right, because at the end of the day, it is a health hazard. It's no longer just an industrial dispute, if you like. And the people, surely, who live in Birmingham deserve better, don't they?
Absolutely. It's a disastrous situation. It is a health hazard, as you say, and you can see from the pictures there just how bad it is. And what you have to bear in mind is that this goes back to the bin strike of 2017.
Yeah.
In order to resolve that, the Labour administration created a new grade for the bin men. Normally, bin men are either grade 2 or the drivers are grade 4. They created this intermediary grade as a way of essentially kicking the can down the road and solving the strike. And we said at the time, if you do this, you will create an equal pay liability, because we have to look back to this crazy equal pay legislation that we have in the UK that dates back to the Blair era, that allows you to compare people doing entirely different jobs. Sure enough, roll it forward 8 years, and here we are now with the equal pay liability that we predicted, a 760 million estimated bill for that. And because they haven't fixed this grading issue, it's been estimated that it is now increasing it up to 14 million a month for every month. That's the equal pay liability.
14 million?
14 million, up to 14 million a month is the additional equal pay liability on top of the 760 million we already have from 2017, and that's because they're not fixing this. Right. That's besides all the cost of the clear-up and the issues associated with the bin strike.
That is incredible, isn't it? I mean, so at the moment, as far as we know, there is no end in sight, is there? Because Angela Rayner has been urging for about the last 3 days they should come to a deal, but she doesn't seem to have any other ideas apart from bringing in the army, not to clear the streets, but to kind of advise on some kind of logistics basis. So where do we go now?
Well, I mean, I would be fairly sceptical about bringing in the army. I think that's just optics from the Labour Council and Angela Rayner. They've brought in 3 or 4 guys to help with logistics, and picking up rubbish off the streets isn't the army's sweet spot anyway, is it?
No.
What we need to do, I mean, we've put forward a plan of the 3 things that need to happen straight away. First of all, we have to make sure that those agency workers who are in place and want to go to work can do. I mean, obviously, people have a right to go on strike, they have a right to picket, but they don't have a right to block others who want to go to work from actually doing so. So we have to do that. And also, the council needs to put a time limit on their offer to unite, because the people who were put onto this grade 3, in order to stop the equal pay liability increasing, now have to be moved away from that grade 3 on the bins And they've been given a range of options that they can accept, which I think are pretty reasonable options. That offer has to be time limited. And if they don't accept it, then I'm afraid redundancy procedures have to follow through, because the council has to take away this grade 3 position, because if they don't, the equal pay liability continues to increase indefinitely.
Yes, and I'm assuming that the bin lorries themselves are owned by the council. They haven't, like, you know, got an outside contractor that runs that particular side of the business. So presumably they could put anybody they want onto those bin lorries. They don't have to be those 17 men who are currently on strike.
They are owned by the council. Yes, this is a in-house service, and many would say there are merits in contracting it out, but for the time being, it's an in-house service.
Yeah.
But as I say, do bear in mind that the EU law that, disappointingly, we failed to repeal prevents you from recruiting new people to replace striking workers.
Yeah.
As I say, we need an overhaul of employment law in the UK generally, and this is just one of the aspects of it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, listen, hopefully somebody sorts it out soon, because there's also talk at the moment of it possibly spreading. Unite Union kind of threatening that they might get into other areas of different councils.
Bear in mind, Mike, many people are not aware. Just bear in mind that about half the cabinet in Birmingham, half the Labour cabinet that runs Birmingham, are members of Unite.
Yeah.
And the council is in dispute with Unite. So it's a very strange situation.
That is strange. Very strange. Indeed. And this is why that would explain Angela Rayner's kind of duplicity in the matter as well, because a lot of people were surprised that she was siding with the council over Unite, but that now explains why.
Well, they're in a very difficult position, aren't they? They're members of a union, and they're running a council that is in dispute with that union.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like a Chinese puzzle of some kind, which is very apt for this particular week. But listen, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Meirion Jenkins there, Shadow Cabinet Member for Finance at Birmingham City Council. Why on earth can't they just put different people on the back of the bin lorries, get those bin lorries out, start collecting the rubbish?